Welcome to the Ed Leaders Edge podcast, where we interview innovators and thought leaders in the field of education who are helping students thrive. I'm your host, Ed Madison. I'm a professor and researcher at the University of Oregon, an educational consultant, and serve as executive director of the Journalistic Learning Initiative, a nonprofit organization that empowers elementary, middle, and high school students to discover their voice, improve academic outcomes, and become self-directed learners through project-based storytelling. Welcome to our program.
Well, welcome back to the podcast. Dr. Chris Sefcheck is the superintendent of the New Kensington Arnold School District, serving Arnold and New Kensington, Pennsylvania. He has 26 years of award-winning educational experience, backed by 8 years of military service. He's a 14-time Educator of the Year recipient, 2-time Disney Teacher of the Year nominee, and 2-time Presidential Award in Science Teaching nominee. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Oh, thanks. Thank you. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Very well. Thank you. I wanted to, because I know that in your district you have a junior, senior high combination, and curious, so much we're reading about just mental health challenges being experienced by our teens today. And I'm curious just, what you're observing and how you may be addressing those concerns in your district.
Sure. This has been a growing concern over the years, which accelerated, after about the 2020-2021 school year. Just COVID, cell phones, speed of life, media coverage of all that's going on in the world has people just in a different headspace. And we specifically noticed it between our 7th and 10th graders most. And since we're in a 7 to 12 building, over the last few years, we've noticed an acceleration of students that have personal issues with each other, and like arguments and fighting and stuff over trivial things that lead us to believe that students just aren't happy. And one of the things we've done to combat that is we've hired behavior specialists. We've increased the number of aides in the building. Most importantly, we brought additional mental health services to the buildings. In particular, our 7 to 12 building, Valley High School, we partnered with our local health network, Allegheny Health Network, to provide chill space. So in this partnership, students are referred to health professionals from AHN that are employed by AHN that service our building. And it's much like setting up appointments or teacher referrals or administrative referrals when teachers or adults or other classmates see that their fellow students are in crisis or something's just not right. They refer to the chill space. And what the chill spaces are, we redesigned rooms in our buildings. We have a particular space. The walls have to be painted a specific color blue, based on research as to what color combinations tend to make students the most calm. We've added very comfortable furniture. We put large screen TVs in there that stream nature scenes. We have naturally like water fountains that produce natural sounds, some birds chirping, and students go in there with specific targeted interventions to help them relax, calm down, and address the root issues of what's going on mentally. But it's taken off this year. It took us 2.5 years to get that, but in the short time that it's been running in the last 2 months has paid a huge dividend at our school.
You've been in education a long time. What do you think? Is it something about this particular era that we're in? Do you think it's the social media is sort of exacerbating this, or what do you think of why this sort of surge in these issues now, do you think?
I'd like to summarize it as one word: value. I think that people's values are changing. And what used to be so important to people, education being so important, isn't the most important thing anymore. And there's a lot of distractions to that. Social media is one aspect. The regular media is another aspect. Parents working or not working is another aspect. And just times are different. We want to say that kids are different, but they're not. It's just the things that they value are changing, and the resources to distract are changing, and they're changing rapidly. So I think it boils down mostly to that value piece.
And are you noticing, say a little bit more about this sort of value as it relates to the importance of learning and education? Because, there is a conversation going on in the country that's, questioning higher ed. I mean, for so long we've said, college education is just like, and we know economically that students who attend college, do better in terms of just salary potential and household income. But there seems to be this narrative around just education as something that still we value as very important. Are you seeing that, or?
So, the opinions I want to share are really explicitly mine,
Sure.
in that I formed over years. So, if it seems, abstract or out there, please know that I own this opinion. But I think we've seen a shift in education in the time that I've been in there, to where there are so many external things that we're trying to hold people accountable for, that we've lost the mark on what really we should be doing. Like a few minutes ago, I mentioned value. So now we're telling kids they have to value college or they have to value a trade. Rather than telling them what they need to value, we should be spending more time on teaching kids how they learn and how they learn individually, and how to be lifelong learners, and let that path go, because we're trying to diverge learners into two pathways, and that's just not how life works. I never thought before today that I would be a superintendent. I thought I would be a teacher my entire life, but things happened that caused a divergence, and nobody gave me a choice. There are choices I had to make on what I've learned and what my potential became. And I think that's where we're lacking. I think we're lacking students having self-accountability, being taught self-awareness, and learning how to choose that pathway for themselves, rather than shuffling them one way or the other. Because it sounds like, and it's just me, that now, we're trying to push trades, and we should, because trades are needed. And if I'm sick and my air conditioning's out, I call the HVAC guy before I call my doctor. But are we really doing the kids right by narrowing that focus for them, rather than doing a better job earlier in their learning years, how to teach them self-efficacy and teach them how they need to learn and what works best for them, and providing better pathways for them to learn, rather than the cookie cutter way we've been doing it. I mean, it's almost like we're still in the one-room schoolhouse. We just now do it on a grade level. And we're doing it in confined spaces, and we're doing it in confined time limits, and we're doing it with all these levels of confinement. And how does that allow a student to reach their full potential? It doesn't. And I feel like that's the problem here. It's not, I think the trades are so valuable, just like college is valuable, just like being a stay-at-home mom is valuable. But getting those kids to be the best at what they do and helping them find what they're best at doing isn't pushing them one way or another. It's pushing them internally to learn and be better citizens. Mm-hmm. And then they'll be able to make good decisions. I've made good decisions in my life because I feel I had a great education.
Let's step away from our conversation for a moment for me to tell you about the Journalistic Learning Initiative's innovative educational tools and services. Of special note is JLI's Comfort Corner initiative, a video library featuring near-peer role models sharing about their mental health journeys. This innovative resource destigmatizes mental health challenges, provides a gateway to seeking professional help, and supports your students in realizing they're not alone. If you're looking to make the best decision for your teaching staff and students about AI adoption, improving student engagement, strengthening writing skills, promoting social media mindfulness, or enhancing college and career readiness, please take a moment to visit our website at journalisticlearning.org. Our team of University of Oregon researchers offer customized AI tools, instructional materials, professional development, and consulting. Research confirms that students with journalistic learning experience outperform their peers on numerous key indicators for college and career readiness. At the heart of our work is empowering learners to become effective communicators. If you think about it, effective communication is critical in every human interaction, whether it's writing an essay for a grade or being interviewed to secure employment. Since 2015, JLI has benefited nearly 20,000 students and served schools in 15 states and the District of Columbia. I invite you to schedule an appointment to explore how JLI can improve your students' learning outcomes. Now back to our program.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I teach undergraduates, and a good percentage of them have no clue about what they're going to do when they graduate. I mean, they may have a major or an interest, but they're still sort of solidifying. So it is a big jump to expect that middle schoolers and high school students are going to make these kinds of, real life decisions at such a young age.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you just about, just sort of the narrative around public education in general. We're seeing so many communities, particularly in urban centers, where the move towards charter schools is in a sense at the cost of the budgets and enrollments in public schools, and there's this. I think it actually happened during COVID when parents, many for the first time, were able to observe what was going on in the classroom, and some decided they didn't like what they saw. And so there's this continuing narrative that public education isn't doing what it's supposed to do, and we're seeing a loss in teachers in so many communities, and teachers experiencing burnout. I don't know how we shift that, and I don't know if you have any thoughts about it, but.
So, I think one of the inhibitors of public education is the stigma of the number of mandates that are sent down to public schools that aren't sent down to charter schools or to private cyber schools or just even private schools. But I'm gonna circle right back to value, and I'm gonna talk about standardized test scores. When we now went from the Iowa Basic Skills Test in the 80s to then statewide proficiency testing or those criterion reference tests, the state tried to say these tests are going to completely, evaluate how effective you are as a teacher, and that only measures 10% of what a teacher does for students, and it really doesn't measure what students learn. Because you're talking about a 2-hour test, 1 or 2 hours out of 180 days of instruction. There's 6.5 to 7 hours of instruction a day times 180 days. What happens if that kid's mom, grounded him for the week, the morning of the test? He's not going to perform his best. And does that really mean that teacher's ineffective? Absolutely not. But what happens is now all this data gets pushed down that these kids aren't scoring where they're supposed to, and you guys are 15% behind the state average. And now you've got regional news outlets posting the top 400 schools in the state, and your school's 350th, or your school's number 1, and it's going off of test scores only. Like, there's so many more variables, and that weighs on a teacher. I know when I was a teacher, I never had an administrator come to me and say, "We're worried about your test scores." They came to me and said, "Chris, we know what you do what you do best with kids, and we know what's going to happen." And I feel the same thing. It's behavior issues, it's standardized test scores, it's distractions, it's all these things that keep the students from being focused on what they're in that room for. And then you put them in the confines of, a class schedule. Oh, hey, classes from 10 to 10:43. When that bell rings, You got to switch now from this. You got 3 minutes to completely wipe your mind clean and go to this next 43-minute segment, when that's not life. Life is a continuous interaction and transition between one event and another. And we're still using that old factory mentality. So, yeah, when you put all these mandates down, when you still live in a structured factory type, I like to call it prison atmosphere of a public school, you're set up for failure, period. And until somebody can stand up and say, this isn't right, here's an alternative, then you're going to get that same product. And I mean, it's like prolonging the agony of public school is continuing to do the same things over and over again and getting the same or worse results. You're never going to have 100% proficiency in things, and expecting teachers to have that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, is it the sheer number of students that I mean, class sizes are larger, and it sounds like what you're calling for is more of an individualized approach. And I don't know, how do we do that in public education where we really address, holistically a student's needs and interest?
So, I'm very big on all of the core content things I learned when I was in undergrad, like Gardner's multiple intelligences and the use of technology in the classroom. And I knew there was a reason they taught us all those things in college. So back in the early 90s, when I started teaching, we didn't have the technology that we do now. But I feel like I was on the cutting edge of flipping classrooms. And when I taught in Las Vegas, I was at Coronado High School, which is it's one of the best high schools in the state of Nevada. There were times where I would have 40 to 45 students in an advanced placement biology class. And well, actually, that was the early 2000s I was there. But one of the things that I did to kind of turn things around is I flipped my classroom. And when I did that, I tried to provide as many different types of learning experiences for the kids. And then when they would do their homework outside of classroom, it was listening to my lecture, if that's their best way of learning, or if it was doing a coloring sheet of the human heart, they would do that. But when they came to class, they were in groups of people that had similar questions, and they would move and they would be dynamic. And I would go around and help students. And sometimes I would film a lecture ahead of time and play it in class so that I wouldn't have to teach the same thing 6 times a day. I would split my class into 2 groups. So some would do lab work and some would do that. And I tried to break it down that way so that there was time to work with individuals. And with AI out now, I would kill to be back in the classroom, because there are so many more ways to individualize learning now than there ever have been. Mm-hmm. And it can be done. Mm-hmm. But there needs to be more guidance. There needs to be more people that are willing to take risks. And there needs to be leadership that says, hey, this is the way it's going. Stop saying that the math, English language arts, and science test scores rule the district. We offer 28 different courses, but we're going to measure the effectiveness of our high school based on 3 test scores. But individualized learning is where it needs to go. Personalized learning pathways and getting students to realize their maximum potential. And this whole 6-period or 8-period day or 9-period day with confines of 43 minutes and 120 hours for 1 credit of class, there needs to be a restructuring of that first to say, hey, look, it's mastery learning. When this kid can demonstrate this, he moves on. And then his capstone becomes higher. Rather than, okay, those of you that need to catch up, we're going to do this today while the rest of you watch this movie. It's just, we waste a lot of time. Mm-hmm. And there's a way to do it. We just need the right people to stand up and work together and say, this is how it needs to be done.
Let me ask you about AI. You seem enthusiastic. Others are trepidatious, concerned, fearful. What are your thoughts about just AI and the potential?
I'll never forget my 7th grade math teacher yelling at our class to put away our calculators. They were going to ruin education. And I thought to myself, how is a calculator going to ruin my education? Because calculators aren't going away. Well, AI is not going away either. But I think, first of all, I'm a huge advocate of AI and the use of AI to do personalized learning. I I think what's most important in this whole AI piece is the human intellect. Like, we need to be teaching kids how important human intellect is for driving AI. And AI isn't going away. There are so many more things now than there were a month ago, let alone a year ago. And AI's been here a while. Most people don't realize.
Right.
But if we leveraged AI correctly, we could truly be back on top in education in the world if we provided the right guidance to kids and adults on how to use it.
Mhm. Well, it's so obvious why you're such an award winner and the work that you're doing in inspiring perspective on these issues, Dr. Sefcheck. Tell people how they can find you and or your district online. And
Yeah, so I'm at the New Kensington Arnold School District. We are northeast of Pittsburgh. And our school website is www.n is in new, K is in Kensington, A is in Arnold, SD is in school district, nkasd.com. Or people can email me directly at chris.sefcheck@gmail.com. And that's chris.sefcheck@gmail.com.
thank you so much.
Oh,
Thanks for
you bet. I'd really like to get a chance to talk to you another time in maybe a different context, because there's a lot of work to do, and I know your passion about journalistic writing, and I'm a huge advocate of that. And maybe we can work both coasts at the same time and work our way inwards and get people on board.
Absolutely.
The Ed Leader's Edge podcast is produced by the Journalistic Learning Initiative. Please check out our latest books, Language Arts in Action from W.W. Norton Publishing, and Raising Empowered Learners from Rauman and Littlefield. For more information about our work, please visit journalisticlearning.org or edleaderedge.org. Thanks for listening.